Welcome to the Western Wisconsin Journal. My name is Mary Claire Potter, and it's my pleasure to interview the candidates running for Hudson City Council to represent District 4. Joining me is incumbent candidate Jim Weber. Welcome, Jim.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
Appreciate it. So I have a series of questions that I will just walk through and ask you to respond. So first of all, tell us a little bit about yourself, your qualifications, and your background for continuing to serve as a city council member.
All right. First, been a Hudson area resident for over 35 years. 4 years in Hudson. We lived in the town of Troy, but we were virtually Hudson residents from everything. I'm married, wife Marion, and I have 3 boys. Then they're scattered across the United States, so we don't have any children here. I worked for 3M for over 37 years in engineering and management and various technical leadership jobs. And then when I retired from 3M, I contracted with companies to consult with them on business improvement processes, looking at making sure the front end and the back end of the process were talking to each other, and that was actually what the customer actually got what they wanted. So that was it was really interesting, fun job. I am the incumbent on the council. I've been there 2 years, and I've served on public works and public safety, as well as the cable channel and the Hudson Area Fire Advisory Fire Board. That's close to the right name, but. So I've had a broad experience there, and I worked when we were in the town of Troy. I was in town government for 6 or 7 years. Served on the park board, on the planning commission, and then on the town board. So I've experienced quite a bit of the world, and certainly different styles of government.
Excellent, great, thank you. So why do you want to continue to serve on the Hudson City Council?
Well, at this point, I feel I've started to figure out how things work. I know a lot of the people in the staff, and they're just critical to us and how we operate, and they are very helpful. So I feel I have a leg up now, and I can, when I have an issue or have a question, I know how to get many of my questions answered. So, or how to ask the questions in the right way. So, and then it's been fun. Sometimes a little contentious, but that's, we pretty much all get along on the council, and we respect each other and just have a good, I'm going to say a good time. Sometimes it's not so good, but we're able to work through things, and that's important. That's what I like.
Good. So what do you see as the most important issues to be addressed by the Hudson City Council, say, in the next 2 years?
Well, I think the first one is to review the comprehensive plan, which was written back in 2009, which was in a different economic environment. The world has shifted quite a bit since that time, and we need to review that and look at that's our growth plan. That should be our growth plan, and look at how we want to grow and what it's going to take to grow. Is it different than it was 7 years ago? And I think, and truly, it is. So we need to look at what it is that it's going to take for us to grow. That's to me is the most important thing.
Okay. Do you see any areas where the city could reduce spending without reducing services for the residents?
Boy, that's tough. I think the current mayor, Alan, with the council, has just done a tremendous job, and with the staff in holding our costs down. I don't believe we had to lay any people off when things got tough and we couldn't raise our mill rate or raise the taxes. But through attrition, we were able to combine some jobs and do some things and prioritize what got done. And so, no, I don't think so. I think, in fact, we may need to look at how do we accelerate some of the things we're doing. We have a lot of road work going on, and it's springtime. You can see where the other roads are starting to come apart and what's going to be needed. So. No, I don't see any reduction in our staff or our facilities at all.
All right. Do you think the city's plan for maintaining and improving the city's infrastructure is sufficient? Why or why not?
Yes, I'm going to say basically it is. We have some new people on board, and that we'll be taking new looks at things. Again, that's part of the comprehensive plan, would be involved in looking at that. If this is our growth, do we have the necessary infrastructure to support that? As has the fact that we've had to limit some of our repairs and our maintenance, how has that affected us, and how much do we have to catch up? We have some of our structure under the ground is old, and we're replacing some of it on Vine Street. That's some 100-year-old storm sewers and very small water mains that are being replaced. So that's going to be a great improvement. But we still have other pieces that are quite old, and we're continuing to identify those and figure out which ones need to be done. So we have to look at we have a 5-year infrastructure plan, and we need to look at that and say, okay, here's the 5-year plan, but where's the 10 to 15 or 25-year plan? And because it will happen. Things wear out.
That is true. That is true. Do you think the city council should revisit rezoning the dog track property?
I've thought about, said, well, what would that gain us?
Mm-hmm.
And I think the way we work is that if someone comes in and wants to use that property for a certain use and it doesn't fit the zoning, then we would look at that. Mm-hmm. I believe we can be really flexible on the zoning there. It's not an issue. The school is no longer interested in that, which really kind of drove the zoning contention 4 years ago. But so that's not part of their plan. So we don't have to rezone that to attract the school. So I see whoever wants to buy it that would drive zoning. But I think an interesting point, as that question made me think about, what should we be doing to make that more attractive? It's been sitting there for a long time, and that building can't be getting any better. Mm-hmm. We need to perhaps look at who has been interested in it and why they chose to not purchase that land and move ahead, and see can we do something about it. And I don't have access to a lot of that. Just what I hear on the. I'm not involved in the negotiations. Usually it's the mayor and perhaps Mr. Darnold are the key people that could say why we haven't been able to sell that. What's been the restrictions, and is there something creative that we can do to make that go away? Maybe as wild as buying the property ourselves and tearing the building down. If that's what it took. That's a what ifing, but we should look at that, because that's a prime piece of property right in the middle of and the last large piece of property, I believe, that we have within the limits of Hudson.
Very good. So moving on to a new topic, what are your ideas on how to financially sustain the library?
Well, I think it has three pieces, and I kind of led the agreement to actually increase our funding significantly this year for the library, in addition to what we had already planned, so that the library could be open the 6 days a week, getting back to being open on Monday. And they just opened last Monday was the first full day. Is this today, Monday? Yeah, last Monday was the first full day that they were open, from 12 to 8, and so that was really kind of they had a lot of smiles on their face when I walked in there. I just happened to say, wow, I got to return books, and there it was. So that's part of it. So, but I think Hudson needs to take the lead. And there are three components to the financing of that I see. One is the municipal funding or the public funding. Secondly is private funding, such as fundraising campaigns that I believe the library boards have planned. And a third are grants that are available for different programs. We have a new librarian, and I think that she will lead us in some of that. The boards are working much more closely, and so I think it's going to take a while, but I believe Hudson has to lead this. It's our library. It's in our city, even though it's a municipal library. We bear the success or failure on our name.
All right, thank you very much. So do you think the city of Hudson should continue to annex land?
Yes. The question is whether we want to grow or not. And if we're going to grow, we are going to have some additional land. And the question of whether we go out and buy it or whether we let the people who are actually going to end up with the land or with the building, the businesses are going to come in, are they going to drive that, or do we drive that? And that's, again, looking at our comprehensive plan and saying, what is it? That, to me, that's really probably a key question. Where are we going to grow? Because we are getting kind of landlocked. Mm-hmm. There are some pieces out there, but there are houses in between us and them. So it's getting to be interesting about where we could grow. And I think that's a really, really important piece we have to look at. But my belief, if we don't grow at some level, then we will actually either start to die, or our taxes will go up, the age of the community will increase. So it will not be a positive thing. We have to have some growth to continue to excel.
So a follow-up to that question then is, what is your position on allowing or limiting more residential and commercial development in Hudson?
Oh, within Hudson, there's not much that we can do. So, the easy answer is, we're developing the last residential area that's currently within Hudson. But I think it's still desirable, that growth is important. We're not going to, at least all the demographic people say we'll never see the kind of growth, and the economic people say we'll never see the kind of growth that we saw in the 90s and early 2000s. That's not going to happen again. Who knows? But we will, unquestionably, every one of them says we're going to see 1.5% to 2%, 1.5% to 2% growth. Depends on how you want to look at it, mm-hmm. which assumptions you make. So we are going to grow, and I just don't see stopping the growth. I don't see putting up fences and saying, no, we're not going to grow anymore. But we have to do it wisely. We have to consider our neighbors and work those things through. But yes, we need to grow.
All right. So Mayor Burchell has a new suggestion about that the council's thinking about changing its special assessment policy to charge some of the cost of street paving to adjacent properties. What do you think of this idea?
I don't think that's a good idea. I think the people pay a fairly decent percentage of the actual work that's being done, but it's mostly their work, like their driveways, their curbs, their sidewalks. The general suggestion was, well, would they pay for part of paving the street? Mm-hmm. There are some cities that do that, but I think the street and the infrastructure is a public thing for the whole city, and that basically the city needs to support that. If you think about Vine Street, the residents of Vine Street, they have parking, but they don't park on Vine Street. For the most part, they find some other way. So, and they worry about traffic, and so Vine Street is not necessarily good for them. So to charge them extra for something that somebody else is using, the 6,000 cars a day, not people on Vine Street, not the residents. So it's a public bill.
All right. So final question, what other issues do you think the council should address, or is there anything else that you'd like to add for today?
Yeah, I think we've got a couple other things that are important. One is the physical location of our primary services, like the EMS and the fire and the public works, and they're pretty much scattered, and some of the locations we're in, the buildings we're in, are not the best. We have some new buildings up on the edge of the golf course that we recently purchased that will do some of that, but we need more facilities. So that's going to be a major issue over the next year or two to take care of, to get all that. Who is going to be in those buildings up there? Everyone would like a new building, but who's going to be in those buildings? What's the best service there? Where should the fire department be located? We need some service up on the hill. Where should the public works be? They're kind of for a lot of it's way on the north end of the city. So and those buildings are old. So that's an issue. I'd like to see us, and we've got some things going on. To create a network plan for roads, trails, paths, sidewalks, the infrastructure, and how we're going to get around the city. How are we going to cross 94? 94 is a barrier. how do we safely cross that easily? It's a problem right now. How do we move from one neighborhood to another? Make sure that when we build a new neighborhood that it's not separated, that you don't have to get into a car to get somewhere. But that's the way that inner cities are developing now. So I think we need to look at that, and I think that's one of the things that the millennials look for. So that's the next generation that's coming into this town to build and raise families, and so I think we need to take a look at that piece.
All right. Well, thank you, Jim, very much for your time today, and wish you all the best of luck in the upcoming election.
Thank you.
So thank you. So remember to get out and vote for the City of Hudson election, which will be held on Tuesday, April 5th. For the Western Wisconsin Journal, I'm Mary Claire Potter. Thank you.